Welcome to Daily Life Connection. Today we're going to continue to explore who God is and the different characteristics and aspects of our God and how that impacts our lives. I want to begin today in Isaiah chapter 45. A rather strange little verse here. God is speaking and he said, I am Yahweh and there is no other. Besides me, there is no God. Beside me, there is no God. Well, what is he saying? Because the reality is, the people to whom he's speaking, to the people of Israel, their culture and their surroundings are full of gods. Very common that the houses of that day would have a corner or a set of shelves or a niche in the wall for their gods, their household gods or the temple gods or all kinds of gods in that culture. And in fact, Israel had embraced many of them. Because I read the story the other day of Rachel and Jacob, when Jacob fled from his father-in-law Laban, and that Laban pursues them, and he's not so upset that he stole his daughters or his sheep. He's upset that someone took his household gods. And we read in the story that actually it was Rachel that took them. Here is this woman who is connected to as a mother of Israel, and she has a bag full of these household gods, and she sits on them and refuses to get up, and so he doesn't find them. Laban doesn't find his household gods. I'm just telling you that so that you understand gods were a common household items and commonly known and among the people. So when God says, I'm God and there is no other, what's he saying? I believe he's saying this. And you know, in the New Testament, of course, the Roman culture, the Greek culture were full of gods, temples to gods, Zeus and Artemis and all kinds of gods, Aphrodite and so on. And yet God says, no, I'm the only God. What is he saying? That there's nothing to them? What he's saying is this: I am the only God who is not self-centered. All the other gods, I'm the only one like this. I'm the only one who is self-sacrificing instead of self-centered. We see it in Jesus when it says he didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life. That was not common to any of the other gods. All the other gods demanded sacrifice, they demanded service, they demanded, in order to bless people, you had to give them offerings and sacrifices. Interesting because, you know, even though we see sacrifices in the Bible, several times God said, I wasn't interested in your sacrifices. I'm interested in mercy, not sacrifices. Mercy and justice and compassion and love, not sacrifices. So you see, even they misunderstood God in a way, and they thought he was like the other gods, that you had to serve him and obey him in order for him to bless you, that he was all concerned about himself. God said, no, I'm not like that. I'm not like the other gods. There's no other God like me, a God who gets down in the dirt with us and serves us. That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, Jesus is the epitome of that. He is the revelation of it. Jesus came down into our earth, gave up his glory in heaven. Philippians talks about how he emptied himself, gave up his privileges, gave up his glory, gave it all up in order to get down in the dirt with us, in order to serve us, to help us, to meet us in our place of need. There is no other God like that. Zeus didn't do that, you know, or Jupiter, or whatever the gods might have been of the day, or the old Canaanite gods, Baal and so on. They demand Moloch in the Old Testament. They demanded sacrifice. They demanded people get down in the dirt before them. And here's our God who gets down in the dirt with us in his Son Jesus and serves us. So many times Jesus said, what do you want me to do for you? Really? That's a question a God asks? None of the other gods asked that. None of the other gods came and said, what can I do to help you? There is only one God like that, and it's Yahweh. It's our God, the God of Israel. And you know, it just something to think about today, something to meditate on today. The God who serves us, the God who is interested in us more than in himself. The God who is interested in others. He's other-focused instead of self-focused. There is no other God like that. He's the one and only. That's good news. It's really good news because, we might have all these gods that we worship. We could choose to worship. None of them is interested primarily in us, only interested in us for their own sake. But our God's not like that. He's interested in you and me for our sake, to connect with us, to include us, to redeem us, to love us, to bless us, to value us. There's no other God like that. No other God like that. Isaiah says it some other place in the book, and he says, God longs to be gracious to you. He waits patiently to be gracious to you. No other God like that. So let's think about that today and rejoice in the fact that our God, there is no other God like him. He is the one and only God who is not self-centered. God bless you. We'll talk again tomorrow.